Okay, so let me shift and we'll accelerate since we've had a little bit of amateur hour here. And first of all, I apologize for chewing up some people's time on Safari and GoToWebinar not working well together. But hey, the first thing is my second apology. It was supposed to be the first one. Is in the GoToWebinar we have, and this wouldn't be any of you, but we have probably 30 or 40 people who are missing because we kind of maxed out our number that we had planned on. So for those people, we'll send them a little follow-up and let them try again later, maybe a recording of starting from now. But the thing is the other piece of it is we have about an even mixture on the phone call today of school owners that are 10,000 and under in their results, and school owners that are between 30 and 120. And as many, if not most people know on the call, I mean, my specialty over the last few years has really become working with the big guys, taking the top 1% and doubling, tripling, or quadrupling their net profit, which is truly much more important than just constantly trying to get the gross up, and taking the next tier of school owners who have been open for a while or who kind of really have a bit of a clue, and getting them from 12, 15, 17, or 20 to 50 or 70. And for those school owners who are under 10, who are on the call, and again, that's about half of the audience, I want to give a couple of observations that I think are specifically relevant to them, and then I'm going to shift, and all of my conversation is going to be aimed at the bigger or more advanced schools. And I've got this PowerPoint here. I'm going to skip through some portion of it because I don't want to rehash it since we've chewed up a little bit of time. But for everybody who's under 10,000, and I know an awful lot of the bigger schools are going to say to themselves, this applies to me also. But for everybody who is under 10,000, what I'll say is, number one is pretty much anybody that Toby talks to, mostly it's not me, or that Bob Dunn talks to, or that happened to run into me at an event or an activity or a tournament, is I would guess that your world, at least from your view, would change dramatically if only one thing happened. And if that one thing was in the next 90 days, you added a net of 100 new students to take you from 50 or 75 students to take you to 150 or 175 students, everything would change with the world. And when we start talking about referral systems, and Toby, I would say something a little differently than you do. If you were really, really, really good at referral systems, you could enroll enough new students, regardless how many you have, assuming you're at critical mass of 150 or 200 students or more. You could enroll enough new students to have that be your primary source of revenue. And if you got, or of new students, and if you got really, really, really good at that, you could have a flood of new people coming in the doors from referrals alone, and you shouldn't rely on that as your single pillar of your marketing activities ever, any more than the MMA guys that are $1 million or plus that I work with right now, any more than they should rely on the internet as their sole and only driver. It's a big mistake to rely on only one thing. But the other side of the smaller schools is referral systems, as Toby just said, don't do you a lot of good if you don't have some level of critical mass in your school. If you're at 25, 50, or 75 students, you don't have enough people that you can get enough big events and enough birthday parties and pizza parties or UFC night at the Woody Wild Wings or anything in between. You don't have enough critical mass that you can get that to work. For that half of the people in the call that I'm not going to predominantly talk about or talk to very much on this call, is we've lined up, and Toby, you can tell me the value, but you know, we've lined up a package of about $2,500 worth of free stuff for you, and a 90-day action plan that is going to cost you far less than just the cost of postage and the physical stuff that we're going to send you. And frankly, the only reason we're doing that is we're hoping you'll get to 15 or 20,000 in a hurry and then be able to work with us at higher levels. And we know that some of you will take massive action. Those of you who take massive action, I have confidence that wherever you're at, you'll end up with another 100 active students and be in the $15,000, $20,000 gross range, and then we'll be able to really do some exciting stuff. And those of you who think it's your neighborhood, your style, your school, your community, your city, state, or country for that matter. We have people from Azerbaijan, from the Middle East, and from Europe and Australia on the call right now. If you think that if there's any external excuse of why you're failing, then you're going to continue to fail. So don't waste our time. But for that, for the school owners at that end, we're going to email you and text message you a link. It's essentially a 90-day, as close to free as we can make it, for you to get all the tools you're going to need to add 100 students, including some hand-holding for it. And if you don't take advantage of that, you might as well get into a different business. Truth be told, because it's time to get off your ass and get it to go. So I don't mean to be harsh about that, but if we created it as close to free as humanly possible, with as much support to get you guys 100 more students, so you can really start getting into to be a player. But let's go back to this. I just like this Far Side cartoon. Some of you have watched that video that we have from the private coaching session, and if so, there will be a little bit of overlap, and some of this will be familiar. But let me cruise through here pretty quickly. I'm not going to spend much time. This is our standard line from the other thing is, we can be a fuzzy teddy bear. We can kind of tell you how it really is, and I'm not going to spend much time sugarcoating the truth. And the reality is, on a call like this, some people are going to be kind of turned off by the direct style, and other people are going to want to have more students, make more money, and keep them longer, and have better black belts. And so we'll pay close attention, take notes, and take the next steps in action. So if I'm offensive to you in any way, I apologize, but I'm not going to tone down for the people who need it, for the people who are hypersensitive. But let's go through a couple of things. As I already mentioned, there's really three groups of school owners on the call. Interestingly, about half are under $10,000 a month. There's several that are 15 to 30, and lots that are in the 60 to 120 range. And each group has different needs. I've already addressed the under 10,000. Pretty much the under 10,000 group needs more students. And to get more students, they need to learn how to market external in the community. Typically, they don't have enough money to spend on advertising, so they need to get out and work their ass off in the community. We have some high leverage community outreach activities and some other things that will show you how to do that. The group that's 15 to 35 have unique needs. Usually it's about creating more efficiency and creating a consistent, replicatable, ongoing methodology for getting enough new students every month and getting enough pillars in their marketing activities so that they can replicate that, and in many cases so that they can hire people and delegate it rather than doing it all themselves, because usually at 15 to 35 you're spinning a lot of wheels yourself. At 60 to 120, and some of the smaller schools wish they had these problems, but really the problem is in profitability in many cases. It's in all of a sudden you've got a big head count, you've got a bunch of different things going on marketing. If you're an MMA or a kickboxing school, maybe it's almost 100% online, which is a big mistake. Not that you should back down on that. In fact, we're going to show you how to become better at it. But you should always have the Parthenon. What I find so many times in the big schools is about systemization, it's about organization, it's about getting better people and fewer people who end up with multiples of results. There was a quote from Bill Gates I saw that he said the difference in a Cracker Jack programmer at Microsoft and a normal guy was not a 2- or 3-fold improvement in results. It was a 1,000-fold improvement in results, and that's why he explained that his company and Google and Apple and so forth spent so much time to find the top 1% of traffic or of talent, because they got a 100-time or even a 1,000-fold improvement in productivity for most people. So anyway, moving along, I'm going backwards here. I'm not going to spend much time on my background. Pretty much everybody on the call knows a little bit about what I've done, and the background. I'll just kind of reiterate that really I've ended up in the niche of being the guy who the top 1% work with, and then the top 20% who want to be in the top 1% work with, and you can certainly validate that in a lot of different sources without me having to go through it now. But there is a question, and what I find with an awful lot of school owners is they end up with one of two scenarios. They're either really serious about the technical stuff of what they're doing, and they're not really serious about being an effective school administrator, an effective persuasion with students and prospective students. And so many times, even the big schools, to use Nick Kokinas' old line, have ended up in a situation where they're sliding along laterally, and they're really not growing fast, but they're somewhat satisfied. And the line that we kind of stole from Brian Tracy when he came to present for us, but I mean, you really got to decide in your chosen profession you're going to be in the top 20%, or why bother? So there's Brian talking about that quote. But you know, if you're not going to be in the top 20% of your profession, go find a profession that you can be excited about enough and competent enough to be in the top 20%. What does that mean in the U.S.? And here's again, I'm not going to go spend much time on this. You can get the sense. But to be in the top 20% in the U.S. right now means you're making a personal income of $90,000 a year or more. And you know, that only boils down to what, $7,500 net per month. And I know that again, as I address some portion of the people in the call, I mean, that's their gross, but to net $7,500 a month from running a martial arts school is not a difficult thing to do. And if you're not at that point yet, I know you may say, and that's easy for me to say, but the reality is I've personally done that every year since 1983, and am associated with many peers who have been in that situation since 83 or 73 or before. And whether you're in a single school environment or a multi-school environment, that is not a very difficult threshold to hit. Again, I've already addressed we're not going to spend much time talking to the under 10,000 a month, but to be in the top 5% in the U.S., that's 150,000 or plus income. To be in the top 3%, that's in the top 200,000 or plus, as we all know, is all of us who are in that category above just got a new tax hit, and they continue to gun for us. But aside from that reality, is there's no reason in the world that you don't aim for that top level. And what we work with right now, and what I work with, is our inner circle group are school owners that are 500, a million, sometimes multi-schools that are 4, 5, 10 million a year. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later, but I'm going to give you some real action plans here. But the thing is it's a real serious support group, mastermind group, where we just got done meeting by telephone a couple of minutes ago. One of the gentlemen we were talking to, Paul Miller, just gave us his numbers last year because of Inner Circle. His main location was up 254%. His second location was up 192%. His third location was up 130%, and we're firing the staff and putting people who aren't going to run it so poorly into that one. Cumulatively on transported after-school care last year, he did $3.2 million, and the martial arts side of his business is on track to eclipse that, plus be much more profitable. So just to give you a sense of the type of people we're working with at that level. But we really have, not to put it mildly, a no assholes policy. We don't want martial arts egomaniacs, and we don't want people who decided that they've arrived. The old thing is, if you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting. And too many school owners, even fairly big school owners, have decided that that they're there. And frankly, they're hurting themselves by limiting their development at that point. Once you've decided you've arrived, you stop learning. And once you're on a plateau, sliding along laterally, decide you've arrived, what you can guarantee yourself is the crash is coming, because the world is constantly changing. If you're not changing and learning with it, you're going to have serious problems. The next level of what we work with is peak performers. And again, one of these two levels represents the top half of the people on the call and people I'm going to be talking to. Really, it's about a $12,000 to $35,000 a month in monthly revenue. The other, criteria are the same. I mean, these have got to be people who are green and growing. Got to be people who are in the mode of going from $35,000 to $70,000, going from $35,000 a month gross to $35,000 a month net, and are really ready to actively participate and support one another. But let's get into the meat here for a second. And again, I'll tell everybody who's under 10, we're emailing and texting and one thing or another a link where for the next 90 days our mission in life for you will be add 100 new students and do it for you essentially for free. But you've got to commit yourself to doing a little bit of work to get there. And then our mission is to get you into the category to fit one of these other two criteria. So again, click on that link. Take us up on all of the free sweat equity that we're gonna show you how to put in and that we're gonna put into you. But now let's talk about the everybody else in the call who's already got some momentum. See, the 5 things you must do this year and make sure you start off really strong is you've got to, number one, have a consistent Parthenon for your marketing, and think about that of the Parthenon in Greece it's if your only source is referrals, your only source is your sign, your only source is internet, any one of those things can be unpredictable and dry up at any one minute. And what I always teach people to do is be a genius on internet marketing and don't take that as your primary source. Be a genius at 22 activities and events and processes for internal referral marketing, and don't get fat, dumb, and lazy and just stick with that. Make sure that you have a consistent Parthenon of marketing. We'll spend a little bit more time talking about this, but I want to give you the overview. Number 2 is fix your student retention, I got to tell you that I have yet to talk to a martial arts school owner who gets me on the phone and says, I just suck as a martial artist and teacher, and you got to fix me. Everybody we talk to says, my classroom is great. I'm great at what I do. My lineage is fabulous. I just need more students. The reality is, in almost all cases, is they do need more students, but they also need to keep their students an awful lot longer. And I'm going to give you some references to that. And I just talked to a school owner a couple days ago. He's one of Buzz Durkin's students, and he's one of the few that I have ever talked to in recent years, and it's because he's been mentored by Buzz. He really didn't need to work on his retention. He was having less than 1% a month drop out. Basically, once they enrolled, they were they were there for life. And in fact, he has 200 active students, 150 of them are black belts. Now, that's really cool. His problem is he, in fact, needs more students. I can tell you the number of conversations I've had like that in the last 24 months. He's the guy. In most cases, I find that student retention is either not very good, meaning the month-to-month dropout rate is way too high, the rate of people who renew is way too low, the average value per student is way too low. See, the numbers we're looking for is 1 or 2% a month dropping out, 3% or less is a really good number. We're looking for a high graduation rate to black belt. We're looking for the average new student who enrolls in your school to contribute $3,000 to $5,000 over the term of their commitment. So if you don't end up with numbers that sound like that, you've got a problem in that, and we can show you how to fix that, how to work on that, and in most cases, by the way, it's not about curriculum. It's not about learning the next new thing. It's not about charisma. It's about a sincere interest in the students, and it's about systems in place to never let anybody fall through the cracks, and to in fact have them really truly internalize and understand that you like them and you miss them when they're not there and you care about their progress. But we can teach you more and more about that and do that. What all martial artists tend to do is they focus on technical. So they think I'm a Shotokan guy, and if I start learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'll have better retention. Or if I start learning Muay Thai, I'll have better retention. Or I'm a Muay Thai guy, and if I start teaching them some Sambo, I'll have better retention. Well, that's almost never right, and it's rarely the way to go. So number 2 is fix your student retention. Number 3 is create more value. And the way we create more value for our students is we go from the physical to the mental to the emotional with them. And we create the ability for them to understand how to develop their mental skills, how to develop their character, how to develop their intuitiveness, how to develop their fortitude. And if we don't create value, both real value and perceived value, we're stuck in a never-ending procession of either they're on to the next guru, so they come into your thing and then they're off to Zumba, or they're off to, going from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to Muay Thai to something else. And truly we're not developing martial artists, we're just developing fighters if they do stick with you. So number 3 is create more value, and we'll show you how to create more value for your student body, what the elements of that are. But I'll also tell you that if a student who's come in and visited you once or twice, if the level of tuition that you can charge them is the same as somebody who's really become dedicated and they've been there a year, and you are really moving them up on the commitment level and teaching them at a high level, you haven't created enough value and you haven't created an escalation of value. And many school owners have disregarded the concept of upgrades or the concept of renewals because they don't understand the value creation process. And what we want to do, and again, I'm not pushing that you in 60 days push them up into double or triple the tuition for no good excuse. But what I am saying is that there is a way to move people further and further along the value chain so that they get a lot more from you and benefit a lot more from you, and that their outcome and results are triple, quadruple, 5 times. And some of that can be physical and technical, most of that is not. And so you've got to think in terms of that. So the number 3 thing you have to do to start off strong is constantly have a fresh piece of paper in front of you and think, how do I create more value in my students? And how do I show them how to have more character? How do I show them how to have more confidence? How do I show them how to have more mental fortitude? How do I teach them mental skills that are truly going to carry over into their academic career, truly carry over in their career? And how do I recognize, and this is true of a MMA team made up of 25-year-olds, as well as it's true of teaching 7-year-olds, as well as it's true of teaching 42-year-olds Tai Chi, is ultimately all arts are about the internal development, not just the external physical development. And so the difference between a world champion and a whole bunch of also-rans rarely is not in much difference in the physical technical skills. It's in their ability to focus, their ability to dedicate themselves, their ability to come back from defeat, and their ability to discipline themselves. It doesn't matter whether it's Tiger Woods and his ability to discipline himself to practice more than anybody else practiced for more years than anybody else did, or whether it's the latest MMA star, whoever that might be. The next thing is to move up the ladder, and especially the big schools, is you've got to automate, systematize, and delegate. And I intentionally put automate there first and delegate last, because the more we can get things where either, and this is online, offline, accounting, billing, student service, follow-up, the more that we can get where we have systems in place so a human being that's on your payroll doesn't have to touch it, in order to make sure that on a day-by-day, week-by-week, month-by-month basis that many different things are happening positively to support the school, then the better off you are. And on the bigger schools is I see some schools that end up with 1,000 square feet in the back room with 3 people handling paperwork. or some combination of hiring a full-time quote-unquote administrator. See, that's always a route to low profitability, and it's always a route towards a lot of things falling through the cracks because human beings just let things fall through the cracks at certain periods. So we want to learn how to automate everything that can be automated. And again, as a side note, there is the syndrome of trying to kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. So I do see some people trying to automate things that shouldn't be automated and spending hours, if not, hundreds, if not thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get software to do what shouldn't be automated. But we want to first automate, and then we want to systematize, create a consistent, ingrained in the culture a system and methodology for doing every piece of the operation so it gets done the same way over and over and over again. And then third, we want to delegate. So we want to learn how to train, develop the right staff so that we can hand stuff off to them and get it to happen with or without our daily activity. Sadly, Grandmaster Smith was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks recently. He had a little infection that became a problem, and they hospitalized him. He was gone from our regional training center in Washington, D.C. for over 2 weeks, and guess what happened? The gross went up. And that's not a testament to his effectiveness at personally teaching and selling. It's a testament to his effectiveness at training staff who then had the opportunity to step up, and since they knew where they were under the spotlight, the numbers went up. Now that's your goal. Your goal is for the location, even if you're a big single school operator, whether you're in the hospital, which we hope is not that, or whether you're in Maui or in Fiji, we want the school to do better numbers in your absence than it is when you're there. And so that's the delegate, but the delegate is mostly a matter of hiring the right people. Pretty much all martial arts schools hire the wrong people. Then it's a matter of training them effectively and on an ongoing basis. And last, it's about really supervising. You've got to inspect what you expect, but it's about having systems in place so that you're automatically seeing their process and their outcomes and their follow-through on methods on a week-by-week basis, even if you're out of the country. So, and the fifth thing that you've got to do to start the year off strong is fix your net profit. And again, if I'm a school doing $75,000 or $80,000 a month and I'm not bringing 50% to the bottom line, I have a problem. And I've had friends and had schools that were doing $50,000 a month in gross, netting 50, and also had 3 or 4 family members on the payroll who were getting overpaid relative to their function. So once you hit a certain threshold, we're in a business where there's a high net. There's a high net because your rent doesn't go up, your utility bill doesn't go up, your phone bill doesn't go up, your payroll goes up. But again, we have systems and methodologies and ways of looking at this to keep that in reasonable ratio. And your marketing and advertising, frankly, the bigger you get, the higher percentage of your traffic for new students should be able to come from internal referral systems, which don't cost you anything. And the great irony is, to some extent, the smaller you are, the more money you have to spend, or the more man hours you have to spend out in the community, and the bigger you are, the more the school is able to perpetuate itself if you do it right. So let's go on to the next thing. The topic of the first point is flooding your school with new students. And there really is again, without bragging, there's nobody in the industry who has mastered this, I would say, more than I have. And now that we've brought all of the resources, past and present, from NAPNA into the fold, we have all the tools and resources to do that. And at all of the levels, as I think Toby was mentioning earlier, we're now moving into supporting all the pieces that you need for an extremely robust web presence, all the pieces you need for everything from inexpensive guerrilla marketing to effective community outreach marketing to really effective marketing or advertising and media purchases. But I will say that in almost all cases, the schools that are at the low end of the spectrum just don't do much. They put a sign up over the front door and they say that they get their students from word of mouth, and reality is that they hope a few happy students will bring a few people. That's not referral marketing systems. So we will teach you how to do that. The exciting thing right now is there's a flood of adult students that are available online. The online marketing is changing constantly. The basics remain the same. But the thing that almost everybody skips that we teach you extensively is the fact that most of your time and effort should be spent on somebody who has expressed an interest. And so once they express any bit of interest, they opted into a squeeze page online, or they came to a birthday party, or they came to a Woody Wild Wing UFC party, or anything in between. Once they've expressed a little bit of an interest, that's when we really go to work on. So most people spend, if they do advertising, they spend it on the great unwashed masses out there, and mostly target by geography. What we want to do is follow up with direct mail, text messaging, sequential autoresponder text messaging, sequential autoresponder email, sequential autoresponder broadcast voicemail, and live outbound telemarketing to any and everybody who raises their hand. The other thing that'll add to that with regard to the online world is there's a few guys now who have evolved that are teaching people about online marketing, and in most cases they've got it about 80% right. But the stat shows that if you have a well-qualified person answering your telephone, and you can move them from offline marketing to your website, or from online, pay-per-click or search engine, to your website, capture some information, and then get them to call you, your closing ratio goes up from 300 to 500%. And this has been validated with small martial arts schools, and it's been validated with big direct marketers ranging from Nutrisystems to a whole host of companies that you'd recognize. So we're spending a lot of time now on capturing a mobile number and putting a live person on calling them while they're on the website, and driving them from the website to get them to give us information and then initiate a call so that they talk to one of our people. So the flood of new students is about having a big toolbox. It's about knowing how to go out to the local elementary school. It's about knowing how to go out to the local university. It's about knowing how to effectively work with the Kiwanis or the men's club. It's about effectively knowing how to be out at a live fair, carnival event, how to co-promote with the movie theaters. I mean, the last couple of movie promotions we've done with NAPA members, we've had school owners that added as many as 100 students in 2 or 3 weeks just from that one pillar. So there are so many ways to do this. But again, the bigger you get, the more important referral systems are. And frankly, the more you are dependent upon any one piece of these things, the more you're giving yourself an opportunity to really encounter some problems. So you've got to be really and completely focused on having the Parthenon. The pillars, again, I've walked you through this a little bit, are referral systems, online marketing. People miss both search engine optimization and pay-per-click, but more often, and Toby and I have been through hundreds, if not thousands, of school owner sites, and the best ones I've seen mostly rise to the level of mediocre, and I'm certainly talking about also the ones that are done by some of the other industry experts who are selling you stuff. Direct mail, community outreach, and guerrilla marketing. So we'll really teach you how to focus on all that stuff. But if you don't have a serious action plan, enough new things, and I'll give you a rule of thumb, is if you're not doing at least 10 to 15 different things in January designed to drive traffic for your school, you're just not doing enough stuff. And that may not sound very scientific, but it's reality. You've got to have a lot of different things going on, some of them cheap and easy, some of them expensive, some of them time-consuming, but perhaps not terribly expensive, but there's got to be the combination of those things so you're really getting that to happen. and of course public relations and publicity. If we have time, I'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the call. Of really, in a few things not to do. There's been some high-profile examples of things not to do recently. The next is high student value, and high student value for what they receive, but also high student value from the standpoint of what they're ultimately willing to pay you. What they're willing to pay you in lifetime of how long they stay with you, but what they're willing to pay you on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, what they're willing to pay you perhaps in one lump sum up front. And the story I've told, and I've told it many times, but so I forgive me if you've heard it a few times, but it's if you had all of your black belts close their eyes and imagine that, what would happen if you took them back to the day they decided to enroll with your school and made them an offer to give them back all the time, give them back all the money, would they take you up on the offer? And then if you offered to take them back and give them $1 million cash, plus what they paid in tuition, plus the time, to take back the experience, take back the learning, take back the relationships they've built, take back the experience they've built, if you're doing a good job, when you get them the black belt, the answer should be no or hell no. So if that is in fact the case, why do any of us ever worry about the level of tuition we charge? What we should be worrying about is the ability for us to get a new student to see into the future, to see how they're going to feel and what they're going to have achieved after 3 or 4 or 5 years with us. And you can call that a sales issue, but it's a communication and emotional development issue with the student. If you put all the right pieces in place, you can get them to intellectually understand and emotionally understand what the outcome of your program is going to be. And then price is only ever an issue from the standpoint of the conversation will be, God, I really want to do it. I see the value. Show me how I can afford it. That's a different conversation than somebody saying, well, that's a lot for martial arts lessons. And so that's the type of thing that we'll teach you. But the next piece of it is are you really doing a great job at retention? Here's the 2011 numbers for Harvard University. Is Harvard University, from somebody who enrolls in 4 years, graduates with their bachelor's degree, is 97.5%. I'm sorry, it's 87%. Harvard for freshman retention is 97.5. In other words, 1.5% of the freshman class. In most cases, I would guess because they got in over their head, bail out by the end of the freshman year. 87% of those who register end up with their bachelor's degree in 4 years. Therefore, every month they have 0.02 per month dropout rate. Or to translate that into a martial arts school, with 500 active, that would be one person dropping out every 10 months. Now the question is how are you doing relative to that standard, which is a comparable in an academic and school environment? Are you coming anywhere close? See, I said earlier that 2%. See, that's a 100-fold decline from Harvard's numbers. 2% a month is pretty good in the martial arts industry. And my guess is that an awful lot of people on the call are doing between 7 and 10%, monthly dropout rate. So to translate that into an actionable number, if I students and I drop out 7% a month, that means I have to have 21 new students every month to stay even. On the other hand, if I have 300 active students and drop out 2% a month, I only need 6 per month to stay even. So ask yourself, no matter what your active count is, look at how many students a month you're having to enroll to stay even. And that'll immediately give you what your monthly dropout rate is. So if you're having to add 15 new students a month and you have 300 active students, you're dropping out 5%. So that means you have to get whatever marketing activities it is, you have to get 15 new students just to stay even. And at 15 new students a month, you're treading water. So you've got to be aware of that number, and you can see the impact it makes. If you can go from 7% to 3%, is now at 300 active, You only need 9 new students, not 18, to stay even. So if you manage to enroll 20 a month, your net gain is 12 every month, or 144 a year. On the other hand, if you were enrolling 20 before, you go from 300 to maybe 310 or 312 active students. So on one hand, 20 new students a month puts you on flatline, and on the other hand, 20 new students a month gives you a gain of 140 active students. Which situation do you want to be in? Now, the worst in the nation, to give you comparable, is the Detroit public school system. This is high school graduation. And see, if any school in your area were doing these numbers, I'm guessing, unless you're in Detroit, everybody would be hopping mad and talking about firing the superintendent and 20 other things, right? So now what you have is the Detroit public school system, their high school graduation rate is of freshmen who enter 4 years later, only 25% of them graduate. 75% drop out. Therefore, 18.75% per year are dropping out, therefore 1% a month. So the worst public school system in the United States, the Detroit public school system, is dropping out 1% per month, in many cases with teachers who have metal detectors at the front door to screen the gangbangers from bringing in the knives and the guns. And surely, if we're running a quality martial arts school, we could be able to do better than the Detroit public school system. I threw that in there because sometimes say, well, that's Harvard, or that's West Point. Well, this is the Detroit public school system. I got to tell you, there's no, selectivity and screening and exclusivity involved with this. This is just, freshmen going in many cases from really bad backgrounds, getting a free education, and that's their number. Surely we should be able to surpass that. Toby, I'm sure you're still there in the coffee shop with your background noise, but let me take a breath for a second, and we're already a few minutes over our allotted time because of all of our amateur hour technical issues, and I apologize for that. But let me take a moment here. Most of you, when you registered for the webinar, you also registered for an appointment for a school evaluation. I am specifically looking for a small group, and right now on the call, I think we have close to, our limit was, we put it at 100, so we're a little over, we had a little more than that who got turned away. But I'm personally looking for about 10 schools that are in the 50 to 120,000 a month range to personally mentor and work with in 2013, get the right year here for a change, and to really grow their net and work with them at a high level. I'm also looking for a select group of schools that are in that next tier down, that we can go to work immediately to double your gross and have the vast majority of that increased gross be net profit. And probably the best case scenario in schools that are 12 to 35,000. I had one school in British Columbia that came in at 17,000, and 30 days later they were averaging about 35,000. That's probably a best case scenario. What's happened a lot is a school at 12 to 25 who 12 months later is 25 to 50. So doubling in 9 to 12 months. So we're really actively looking right now for that two groups. But with or without that being your objective is to participate in that, what I would like to do is really spend some time in an objective way looking at your numbers. I have very limited time available, including going to Atlanta and to the Hotel Del in Coronado, California, or San Diego in the next 2 weeks. But if you do not have an appointment yet, I think the URL to do it was napma.com/appointment with the number 3 for some reason. So appointment, APPOINTMENT, number 3. Or even better is call our office, call Bob Dunn. If you have a pen, the number is 1-727-540-0500. Bob's extension is 202. And if you get his voicemail, that means that there's 20 other or so people on the call right now who don't yet have an appointment who are trying him at the same time. So keep plugging with it. But what we're going to do is do a lot more meat, and I apologize. We're going to go about the length over that we went on starting late. And so if that pushes anybody behind, I apologize. But we're going to go ahead and try to get as much meat as possible in the next 20 minutes. And I'm going to try not to skip anything that was part of my presentation to begin with. But I really want to hit the things you have to get done in January to really get going. But I would tell you, even while you're on the webinar, you can go to that URL. Again, it's NAPMA, NAPMA.com/appointment and the number 3. And you can schedule the appointment online, or you can call our office directly, 727-540-05, extension 202, and talk to Bob. And I heard Toby trying to pop in from the webinar.
Yeah, I'm gonna send all that over to everybody on the webinar as well. So.
Good. And we'll send the information from for everybody under 10,000 again. You'll get it by email and you'll get it by text message and so forth. But it's essentially free for the next 90 days, and we're going to put a lot of sweat equity into you. And frankly, our incentive is to get you up into add 100 new students so you can be part of everything we do at a higher level. So we're gonna make the guarantee that you'll get everything you need. We can't guarantee you're going to set your alarm clock, get out of bed in the morning, and implement. So you've got to do that. But let me move forward with some meat here. And again, this is a great quote. It's from the former president of the Harvard Business or the Harvard University. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. It's the attitude you want to keep with your students. It's the conversation you want to have with them. And I've got to tell you, if you're mostly talking to them about how great your style is and why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is better than Taekwondo, or why your brand of Taekwondo is better than Shotokan, you're missing the boat almost 100%. It's really about teaching them about how this is an educational process that's going to develop them in many, many different ways, and most of it's emotional and intellectual, not just physical. The other thing I would urge everybody in the call is I went through, and along with Master Milroy and Bob Dunn, and to a lesser extent with Jeff Smith, we went through the list of everybody who registered for the webinar the last 3 or 4 days. If you registered late today, we didn't really get a chance to, but frankly, we discussed a lot of you guys, and there are a lot of people on the call who've been thumping around, sniffing around, thinking about, worrying about, wanting to do something for a long time. Every time that they sniff around, talk about it, think about it, is in most cases from year to year to year, their numbers are either stayed level or gone down. In some cases, they've gone up a little bit, but they haven't gone up to where they should be. And I was talking to Sean Harvey this morning, but we have, wish I had it on tape, but one of our fun experiences we keep talking about at our mastermind meeting last year this time was Sean getting up in the middle of the meeting on a completely different topic and slapping himself in the forehead and saying, oh my God, I just realized, I figured out that I cost myself $250,000 by waiting the year to start working with you. And that's a real number. Is if you're at 300 now, and by the end of the year you could be at 600, or if you're at $500,000 now, netting 100, and at the end of the year you could be at 750 netting 400. You're costing yourself an awful lot of money by jerking around and putting it off. The other thing is so many people end up stepping over dollars to pick up dimes or saving pennies. We absolutely are having a 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50 to 1 return on investment with people that Master Milroy and myself and Master Smith are working with in small group mastermind environments and in one-on-one environment. And so you really have to not spend a lot of time thinking about it. You got to take action. And I'm convinced from an economic standpoint, 2013 is the time to make a dramatic rollback here. It's going to be a phenomenal comeback year for many of you, and for those of you who are already on a growth trend, it's going to be the time to accelerate it. But now is the time. It's early in the year, and there's a lot of these things that you have to check up and fix and adjust your thinking to get there quickly. So, again, don't spend too much time thinking about this. Do speed of implementation, speed of decision. Really get going. I like the patent quote, I'd rather have a good plan today than a perfect plan 2 weeks from now. So that's really going to make a decision on your implementation, but it's really going to make a decision on whether this is going to be the thing that's going to propel you to never before heard of profitability and, frankly, peace of mind in your school. So the other thing is I see so many people who say, I'd really like to add $100,000 to my net income. I'd really like to make $100,000 more. I'd really like to get my income from, one email today was he's making $55,000 a year and he'd like to get that up. But see, like isn't a very powerful emotion. You've got to really set an emotional content to this, that you're going to do it or not. Are you willing to work a little harder, change your approach, change your paradigm, add value to the service you're getting, learn new skills, find somebody who can show you exactly what to do. If you're not willing to do that, you're not serious. If you are willing to, again, step back, think about the world differently, and again, I can tell you, Master Miller and I have talked to, and Master Smith and Mr. Dunn, we've talked to hundreds of school owners. We can tell you the ones that are failing versus the ones who are succeeding just by the first 3 or 4 minutes of conversation. The ones that are failing want to tell us everything they're doing and why anything that we're going to tell them won't work in their area. The ones who are succeeding are open-minded and taking notes. I mentioned Paul Miller recently from Philadelphia. I did a little small meeting in Philadelphia, and there were 2 extremes in the room. One doing $4 million a year, who spent 4 hours straight taking notes, recording everything that we went over, and whacking his son on the shoulder to tell him to make sure he didn't miss anything. A couple at the end who were struggling to make $12,000 a month while having a boxing program, a cardio kickboxing program, a taekwondo program, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu program, and a transported after-school care program, who wanted to argue with me every step of the way and tell me how people in their neighborhood wouldn't pay what we're talking about, how the ideas were impractical, how nobody who was doing MMA would do this, how nobody doing transport after school care would do this. And so it's the reason why, and it's not the political view of it, but the reason why the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, the reason why it's easier to take a school doing 25,000 and get them to 50, it's easier to take a school doing 50 and get them to 100 than it is to take a school doing 7,000 and get them to 14, is the reason why school owners are either flatlined, and you can flatline at $100,000 a month, by the way, but the reason why school owners are flatlined, or the reason why they just never got out of the starting gate, is mostly in the way they view the world and where they're willing to reach out and get somebody to help them and to look at what other people are doing. By the way, one of the key ingredients, I think, to what we've created with both Peak Performers Inner Circle is a great level of diversity. And what I mean by that is some of the most successful MMA schools in the world either work with me one-on-one or are part of our Inner Circle group, but also some of the most successful transported after-school care programs, also some of the most successful character development for kids and families, Taekwondo schools, also some of the most successful predominantly fitness-oriented programs for women and cardio kickboxing. And we bring all of those people together. In many cases, they start by looking at the world from many different views. Therefore, they have some different systems and practices that are diverse enough to cross-pollinate the ideas. What's happened so many times in the industry, and certainly the organizations like NAPNA and Maya and MOD and so forth in the past, and some of them still, were guilty of internal incest, of everybody getting groupthink and just doing the same things. I think what you'll find with us, certainly with me individually, and with Toby and Jeff Smith and Bob Dunn individually, but with the group overall, is that we're radically looking for new and fresh ways to look at this, and also, me in particular, maintaining the historical perspective of our industry that goes back since 1960 of what's been done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what have been the failings, what have been the successes. And certainly the going back to the 60s model of it all being about physical and any business innovation strictly coming from looking at what the big fitness centers do and modeling it. That's been done before, and it's a bad idea. And so we're giving you a historical perspective of what's going to work. See, the thing is also, as you become what like you associate with, and sadly in the martial arts, but really in all walks of life, most people you interact with, whether it's your brother-in-law or whether it's the people who live in the vicinity of you, or whether it's the other martial artists at the local tournament, most of them are not success-minded. And if you listen to what they're telling you about the economy, about the world, you're going to end up in their situation. So the question is are you associating with the right people? Studies have shown that your income is going to be the average of the top 5 people you associate with. I was having a conversation at different times, one of them with Tony Robbins, another one with Mark Victor Hansen. But I remember having lunch one time with Mark Victor Hansen. If you don't know who he is, he's the one of 2 partners who's behind the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, among others. And what Hansen said is he was talking to Tony Robbins at one point, and he was asking Tony, he said, well, I seem to be stuck at earning $1 million a year, and you're in the, multi-millions, hundreds of millions a year, and I can't figure out the difference. I'm an author, you're an author, I've written more books than you have, I'm a public speaker, I'm a pretty damn good one, you are too. And he said, I just can't figure out what the difference is. And Robbins looked at him and said, well, who's your peer group? And who's your mastermind group? And Mark Victor Hansen says, oh, I have a great group of people that I work with. And he said, well, what's their level? And he said, oh, they're all about where I'm at. Well, the reason why he was on a plateau, the reason why he was flatlined, is he was hanging out with a bunch of people who are where he was at, who are all thinking at that level. And Tony Robbins' comment was, well, I'm hanging out with billionaires, and you're hanging out with people who are where you're at. That's why, my results are at a different plateau. The old Einstein quote is, the level of thinking to get you where you're at is never going to be adequate to get you where you need to go. You've got to change your peer group in order to change your development. And again, we're always getting 10, 20, 30, 50 to 1 return on investment at the lowest levels. Ultimately, if you're doing it right at the inner circle or peak performers, if we can only get you 2 more students a month, you've made all your money back. And at the maximum impact level, frankly, if we only got you 2 more students for the entire year, you'd get your money back. So really, it's a matter of how far you can improve and where you want to go. See, the thing is, the action that you need to take today is either one of 2 things. If you're in the under 10,000 crowd, take the link that we sent you, go do our 90-day, we're going to give it to you deal, and frankly, we're going to put a lot of man hours into getting you that extra 100 students, so you're now in the realm of everybody else that I'm talking to predominantly in the call. But if you're at the higher level, which I know most of you who are still with us are, and that's about 98% of everybody who started with us, is the thing is we have some exciting things coming up. But what I want to do is I really want to go through your 2013 results and show you how to plus them dramatically. And I'm willing to take time between now and our meeting at the Hotel del Coronado, which is a landmark on the West Coast. We're going to go to the Hotel Del. We're going to be there where the SEAL teams train, washing up on the beach. It's really a place for the rich and famous, next to the most elite fighting force that we have. Maybe we'll all go tour the aircraft carrier while we're there. But I really would like to invite those who are at a high level to set the time and to come with us and to meet with us for a couple of days and meet with some of the top performers in the world and really really get a chance to pick their brain and benefit from it. I'd also like to offer you the opportunity for me to spend about a week going through everything that you're doing and set an hour or two on a one-on-one basis to really pour through how you can improve your profitability, how you can improve your marketing results, how you can dramatically improve your outcomes. And at the same time last year, that Peak Performer Inner Circle group, we had some really exciting opportunities. We went behind the scenes at Disney Institute, learning quality customer service and quality staff leadership from Disney directly, both in Orlando and in Anaheim. We also went to West Point and went behind the scenes to learn leadership training from the best in the world. We also did a high-level, this year, marketing boot camp, the Ultimate Martial Arts Marketing Boot Camp. Everybody who was there, most of whom were Peak Performer Inner Circle members, put together a marketing plan for themselves for 6 weeks, 100 new students. The marketing plans that they put together, the entire recordings of that boot camp, the recordings of the Disney experience and of the West Point experience are all available for anybody who moves to the next level, including the recordings of last year's Ultimate Sales Boot Camp, which was the sales process, and most of our Inner Circle and Peak Performers are using that for the staff training. The sales process from first lead contact all the way through to the upgrade process are all available, including Jeff Smith sharing what they're doing in Sterling, Virginia, which is creating an 87% on average for the last 24 months conversion rate from new student to renewal or upgrade. And they're upgrading people on average from the low 200s for the new enrollment price to the high 300s for the leadership program. So they're almost doubling the tuition, which is, by the way, our rule of thumb is you can have an upgrade that doubles the tuition rate. You can have a fallback position that's about a 50% bump. And of their 87%, 90% of them are going to the more expensive option, not the less expensive option. So that gives you an example of both what's doable, but what we're going to show you both in May at our next event and at that's already in the recording. Our meetings this year are going to be really exciting. We're going to be at the Hotel Del Coronado with, again, the top 1%, the top 5% of the industry. Then we're going to go to Washington, D.C. and look behind the scenes at a regional training center there. We're going to come to beautiful Golden, Colorado, and do a high-level internet marketing boot camp. It's going to be leading edge of what's working today. Again, a lot of what's working today is going from offline to online, back offline, or going from online to offline, and integrating sequential autoresponder text messaging, sequential autoresponder email, sequential autoresponder direct mail, and outbound live telemarketing, as well as encouraging them to call into you directly. The next meeting we'll have is going to be going to the Harvard Business School, and we're going to be going behind the scenes at the Harvard Business School to teach you the lessons of Harvard MBAs of what is really at the highest level. And, you know, I mean, whatever your political bent, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were both Harvard graduates. Barack Obama, a Harvard law graduate, Mitt Romney, a Harvard MBA and law graduate. And there's two institutions that are responsible for producing the most leaders, CEOs and such, in the United States, and the two of them are West Point and Harvard. And so we're going to take you behind the school, behind the scenes of the lessons of the Harvard Business School, and show you how it applies to developing your martial arts school. What we ask you to do, though, is, again, make an appointment for all the schools that are in the higher ranges. Make an appointment. For the ones that are in the lower range, we're going to give you that 90-day offer, and then we'll schedule an appointment to walk you through how to do it. I'm personally setting aside only about 20 slots. Again, 20 slots for about 100 people. But I'm setting aside only about 20 slots to really do thorough evaluations with everybody. But if you don't have an appointment already, you need to get one. And that would be either answer Bob Dunn's call the office directly at 727-540-0500, extension 202. or go to napma.com/appointment3, the letter 3, or the number 3, and we will get that directly to you. So what we want to do is immediately get to that. Now, I'd be happy. Well, we're now exactly on time plus the 30 minutes. So, Toby, anything to add to that? You're telling me to type the URL on my screen so they can see it. I'm not sure that I can figure out how to accomplish that so that they see it. But Toby, anything to add?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, your Harvard example, the Detroit school system example. I think I was having a conversation with a school owner about 2 weeks ago, and his sort of blinding flash of the obvious was he was in an area in California. In fact, it just happened to be California, and had been stuck at about $25,000 a month for 7 years. He'd been operating a school for about 10 years, and what his big realization was is I think what you described, just in different terms. He said, this whole time that I've been sort of stuck at this plateau, I've just been comparing myself to other people in the same situation. I've been comparing myself to the losers, not the winners, and feeling good about it.
Yeah.
He was comparing himself with all the, with many of the schools around him that were doing $10,000 a month or $12,000 a month or, 20, and he felt like he was the king of the hill. And I think I guess it's okay emotionally to feel that way, but really what his prime motivation is now is to step into a different category, and the thinking is very different. So I think what you're describing is extremely important. Compare yourself with the winners. Don't compare yourself with the losers and feel good about beating them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like like being the tallest midget. I mean, it's just you want to compare yourself to the winners, not the losers.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things somebody brought up to me and they didn't realize is with the higher level of members is I have now set aside a week a month that all I do is one-on-one support with our top level members. And so with the higher level members, either myself, Master Milroy, and with a lot of facilitation by Bob Dunn, and some with Master Smith, is we're doing an awful lot of one-on-one support. And the thing that we have found that makes all the difference in the world are the 3 key components. And maybe I should say 4, but one component is obviously learning. And that can be done through webinars, and it can be done through online video, and it can be done through MP3s, and it can be done through CDs and DVDs and so forth. But the key to implementation seems to be, 1, a concerned, knowledgeable mentor looking over your shoulder, watching your numbers with you, giving you immediate feedback, and being able to see the things that you miss to really understand and explain what's happening in your operation. And to many people, I think that's the difference between knowing all this stuff on kind of an intellectual level and listening to CDs in the car. I've seen a lot of people who've listened to hundreds of hours of good training material from me and others and still hadn't implemented it very well. The second element is, and again, I'm setting aside about a quarter of my time only for personal one-on-one support, and what happens with that is it's very interactive. All of our top-level members are sharing their stats, sharing their profit and loss statements, running ads that they want to run by me. In many cases, it's ads that we provided for them, running their website in many cases, the key elements we did for them. But sharing all that with us to begin with, and getting, in many cases, saving a ton of money. Just a lease that I helped somebody negotiate just recently. Existing location that had been there for 28 years. Relocated a little bit down the street, $1,000 a month savings in the rent, a year free up front. It was just a knowledge of how to go about that just wouldn't have been present otherwise, because very few people have done as many hundreds, if not thousands, of different events like that with a martial arts school. The other key element, so key element number 2, is having the ability to see a bunch of other people who are all like-minded and friendly and helpful and supportive and coming together and working together. But getting a chance to really see behind the scenes and understand their traumas and challenges, but also understand their implementation strategies and what they've done extremely well, and learning from that. And again, you know, the ones that are open-minded, it's the MMA schools are learning from the transport after-school care and the Taekwondo guys, and the Taekwondo guys are learning from the Muay Thai school and from the kickboxing cardio school, and all of those pieces are going together. Again, I talked to Sean Harvey earlier, and he's got a cardio kickboxing program that we've morphed, and now on the way in the door they pay $247 a month, and then they upgrade to $347 a month, and there's a $497 a month level. And his gross has skyrocketed on that program, and his marketing results have skyrocketed. So it's something that many people think is impossible, but if you run the numbers, you know, you need 3 students of 75 to equal 1 at 225, and you need what, 5 to equal what his upgrade level is. And so the question is it easier to get 5 times as many people in the front door, or is it easier to add value, really be good at what you do, truly be an effective educator, truly be an effective communicator, and charge a higher price? The third pillar for effective, successful implementation, I think, is the ongoing mastermind effect of constantly having one of them is we go and meet as a group. The other is we are constantly getting feedback in teleconference and webinar format every month to redirect, have things seasonal and timely. What specifically do we need to do in January versus having to wait to hear that? And it's all in real time. The fourth component, I believe, is having the resources on tap and on demand. So one of the things that almost fortuitously ended up being the biggest resource for our members was the ability to on demand go back and do the sales training online for any other staff members, to put their program director, put their instructor on the videos or download it as MP3 and put them on repetitiously reviewing and training and learning that process. The other thing is on the on-demand, whenever you need it, whether it's guerrilla marketing materials or you need newspaper ads or whatever it might be in between, having that on-demand and having it at your fingertips. And frankly, there's an awful lot of things that you don't have to become an expert if you have an expert on tap. And you know, everybody and their brother now is a graphic artist and is putting all this pretty martial arts advertising stuff up online, but very few have the eye to know what's going to work, what's not going to work, and have the understanding to know where you should put it and where you shouldn't put it. So we're able to do all of those things for you. Tobin, anything I missed before we have to ring off in about 90 seconds here? He's on permanent mute from the coffee shop. I will say, if you don't have an appointment yet, go to napna.com/appointment3. The phone number to call is on the screen. The San Diego event is coming up second week in February, and the appointments are being set for late this week, a little bit, mostly early next week for me. So you need to get that scheduled. I think about 75% of you already had appointments scheduled, so those who don't need to get those scheduled. Bob Dunn handles all of my appointment calendar scheduling. If you have a question, feel free to email me, but the appointments will be handled by Bob, and you really need to get him on the phone and schedule that. The last thing, again, for all of those under 10,000, and I apologize, we weren't really spending much time on your needs other than you got to add 100 students in the next 90 days, is check your email. You have the email link. You should have a text with the email link. Go to that email link specifically for school owners under 10,000. We're going to give you a bunch of stuff practically for free. It's not free, but it might as well be. And we're going to sweat blood to get you 100 new students in the next 90 days and get you with the rest of this crew, so you're actually making a good living running a martial arts school. Your foundational level, frankly, from running your martial arts school should be a six-figure net income, not gross income. So if you're not at that point yet, we've got to get you to that foundational level so we can move to the next. Toby, did you manage to get off mute?
I was trying to spare a little bit of noise there.
There you go. Is there anything that I missed?
No, I don't think so. Again, I guess just, the big difference that we see in almost all cases is there are about 4 or 5 big switches that we can flip, right? There are 4 or 5 real big kind of transformational moves that we can make in many cases that have dramatic impact on revenue and the operational smoothness of the business. But then there are also a lot of little dials. And our intent for all this stuff, just so so we're transparent with everybody, a martial arts school as a business should be a freedom and liberating experience. It should be a freedom-granting unit, a freedom-granting business, whereas it doesn't have to consume you. In so many cases, we find a school owner looks back at their career after 35 years, having sweat, blood and tears for 35 years, just to look back and realize that they haven't created any equity in their business and now have to work through their retirement, or just have not attained the level of financial independence or financial security that they need to, because the minute they step away from the business, it folds around their ears. And this is exactly not what you've always tried to do and have built systems for, as well as I have. I mean, it's all about creating replicatable systems that can exist in a vacuum, independent of you. So you now become a manager of systems rather than just the chief cook and bottle washer. So I think that is our intent. If you want to be the chief influence in the school forever and you want to be the guru in the corner that everybody bows to every class, every day, well, that's fine. We can certainly help you with that. And installing these systems are simply going to give you more personal freedom. But if what you really want to do is get this single school up on wheels and then scale to multis and then perhaps create an entire organization, then this is the ultimate shortcut to all of that. This is really the taking 35 years of your experience and knowledge at doing such a thing and breaking it down in such a manner that you can scale this as well. So it really is about granting you the lifestyle and the income that you want and deserve, rather than I know so many people that I know from the restaurant business. They literally pour their entire soul and life into the business and realize they've created Joe's Pub, and as soon as Joe retires, the thing isn't worth anything anymore.
Gone.
It just doesn't. Yeah, everybody came to see Joe, which means as soon as Joe stops showing up. In fact, a good friend of mine, Mario, I've worked with him in his restaurant for many years. As soon as he stopped showing up and he let the kids run the place, well, you know what happens. It tanks. So I think that's a very important thing for you to be thinking about. This is all about sustainability, replicatability, and systemization. It's not about how do you go invest 40 more hours a week in the business, just to get it, profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, that's got to be your goal. It's about lifestyle and income. And I have seen large single school owners who have built a business that now owns them, and I've also seen large single school owners who are able to float in and out, be gone 2 weeks a month if they want to, or float in and out for for an hour or two a day if they want to, and have everything run just fine. And really, the second thing is better. And in part, it's better, not that you don't want to have to work really hard, but it's better because if anything happens, one of our inner circle members has his mother is going through some serious medical issues, and and luckily his staff is stepping up and keeping everything level. but it made him realize, and something I've been telling everybody, that he really needs to develop the staff so that they can keep the numbers moving up the way they were with or without him there, because he's getting on a plane a lot to go take care of his mom, and as well he should. So whether it's an illness or a death in the family, or whether it's an illness or a challenge with your own health, or whether it's an opportunity to go to Fiji for 6 weeks, you want to build your business so that it supports you, not vice versa. And that's about the automate, systematize, and delegate piece of the 5 pillars, which will show you how to develop and to do at each point. Well, that's Millie. That's all I had for today. Again, I want to apologize to everybody for our GoToWebinar amateur hour, and apparently the lessons, if it's useful for you, are if your Mac is plugged into 2 monitors, PowerPoint's going to read it like you have the presenter notes on one monitor and the presentation on the other. And Safari doesn't like GoToWebinar very well, so I don't know what other lessons there were there, but GoToWebinar failed to cooperate with those 2 things, and I apologize. But we did get pretty close to all of the meat we were trying to get in, and I'm hoping to personally talk with everybody who's in the top half of everybody we're talking to today, and everybody in the lower half. I'm hoping you'll take advantage of our let's show you how to have 100 students in the next 90 days and get your gross to 15 or 18 or 20, so that you're really off to the races now with what we're trying to accomplish. Well, thank you to everybody for joining us, and in their absence, we apologize for everybody who couldn't make it into the call because of the volume of people logging into the webinar. We'll know next time to expand the expected participation. Thank you.